Hello, people. Welcome to the pre-show. We don't actually have a pre-show tonight. Just want to let you know that we're going to hop right into the podcast. I did take advantage of playing that a little bit so I could get caught up on some things here. So tonight's topic is, where is it here? Astrotheology, codes from the Bible or codes of the Bible, and hopefully we get into some Atlantis technology. So welcome, everybody. Sit back, enjoy, and we'll see you in a few minutes.
Tonight we will go deep into the realm of the unknown and question everything as we search for the truth. We will explore the possibility of countless phenomena within the ultra spectrum, and together we will learn that it is all connected. This podcast is brought to you by the Experiencers Support Association, and it is a live stream broadcast. If you have a question, send me a super chat or become a YouTube member. This podcast is brought to you by the Experiencers Support Association. Take a seat, relax, get ready, and welcome to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat.
All right. Hello, everybody. Today is Thursday, February 17th, 2022, and I, Ryan Stacey, am your host this evening. I'm a licensed private investigator, citizen journalist, and the director of investigations for the Experiencers Support Association. To remember to super chat, click the $sign next to your name in the comment box, and if you're in the observation deck, we are inside the Experiencer Hall. So go put your comments in there, and I will see it in the chat box. So tonight's theme is astrotheology, codes of the Bible, and Atlantis tech. However, it's also a special theme night because our guest today is going to be doing a presentation. So we're going to allow him to present his situation or his story and his research tonight in a different format, and I'm happy to get into that. So our guest for Season 4, Episode 6 is Micah Dank. Micah T. Dank was born in 1983 in Oceanside, New York. From a young age, he had wanted to be a writer, coming from a family of writers. His father was a producer and radio news editor at CBS News in Manhattan, and his grandfather was a producer at CBS News. Micah was an actor in high school and became interested in writing from his 12th grade English teacher, Russell Reid. From there, he majored in English at SUNY Albany and transferred down to, CUNY Hunter College in Manhattan to earn his bachelor's degree in language, literature, and criticism. It wasn't until he moved to Boston for a new job that he became interested in all the esoteric sciences, including astrology, astrotheology, prevalent through his book series. Micah is an author with his new series, Into the Rabbit Hole. His first book is Into the Veil, which he compared to Dan Brown's Davinci Code. And Micah explores astrology and the hidden codes in the Bible and how it relates to what is real, what is possible related to politics, conspiracies, fringe medicine, history, language, and what it means to survive in these times. So, Micah, put on your tinfoil hat. We're about to go, I'm going to say, into a rabbit hole, which we normally say down, but you have a book, Into the Rabbit Hole. So
Into the Rabbit Hole,
Into
yeah.
the Rabbit Hole. So we'll put that in. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for joining us today. Hello, everybody in the chat. So before we get into your PowerPoint, do you want to maybe just tell everybody how you got here? Just give me a quick rundown of how you got to this point right here.
I moved in 2000. I'm from Long Island, and I moved in 2013 to Boston for a new job. I moved there with an ex who I'm no longer with, but we had an apartment in a really nice town and a really nice place. And I think the iPad had just come out, and I was 29, 30 years old at the time. And she'd be in the living room watching TV, and I'd be on the iPad just going down rabbit holes. And I came across someone speaking about astrotheology, and it just blew my mind. And I realized that's what I wanted to do, is I wanted to teach this. So I studied it for a very, very long time. And then I was able to start making some connections and teach it on my own. And that's what I did. And then from that point, I decided I was going to write a book series. And then from that point, I decided I wasn't just going to write a book series, but it was going to be a fiction set of thrillers so that I could teach the information through that. So you can kind of soft red pill people, because they have to buy into the reality that you present them in the book series. Whereas if someone picked up a nonfiction and they didn't like it, they'd put it down. I suppose it could be the same for fiction books, but people tend to give it more of a chance. Mm-hmm. So that's basically what I did. And I've been teaching it since.
Okay. And you're going to present tonight what you've learned through that, I suppose.
I'm going to present, some of it is I've learned. Most of it is my own work.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay. Now, do you come from a religious or a biblical background?
Personally, I have started in a religious background. I have since found questions of my own, and I constantly question things. I take no offense to anything that comes forward. I don't subscribe to anything particularly. I accept all faiths and all ideas. I'm trying to piece everything together myself. The audience, is a mixed bag as well. Why do you ask?
Because this is gonna change a lot of what you see on things.
Yeah, no, I kind of figured that, which is kind of why I was hoping I would be able to interview on some of these things. But you know what? Maybe we'll play some things in our segment at the end that you don't realize what we're doing. I think you might enjoy, but we'll see where this goes. So do you want me to share your screen then?
Here, can you see this now?
Yep, here we go.
All right, can you still see me?
Yeah, we can see you.
Okay, so I start by saying, employ your time in improving yourself by other men's writings, so that you shall come easily by what others have labored hard for. That's Socrates. And it's true, because I've been putting about 10 years worth of research that I've kind of condensed into this 112 slide presentation that I want to show you guys. This stuff is super interesting and it's wild. Now, the Bible. The scriptures are metaphysical, astrological, anatomical, alchemical, spiritual, esoteric, and mythology. Those are the 7 sciences that make up the Bible. I only talk about astrology. but they are not literal, historical, reality, or original. Okay, you have to remember that as you go through this. This is astrotheology in the Bible. As you see the zodiac wheel here, Cancer's at the top, Capricorn's at the bottom. This is how the zodiac wheel should look. Astrotheology is the mythology behind the zodiac, and it's the mythology behind everything in the Bible, the Quran, the Enuma Elish, the Epic of Gilgamesh, the Code of Hammurabi, all the Gnostic texts. And what it does is it goes back 40,000 years ago to the Lascaux Caves. Now, the Lascaux Caves were these caves in France that a couple teenagers found, okay? In much the same way that the kid found the Dead Sea Scrolls when he went into a cave. These teenagers went into this cave and in Lascaux, and they saw something like this. Well, this is just telling you, world's oldest cave paintings show humans understood complex astronomy 40,000 years ago. Okay? They saw things like this on the back wall. Now, the bull is Taurus, the lion is Leo, and the horse is Sagittarius. They made that connection when they saw that there was the bull, the lion, and the horse. Okay, what they didn't know at the time, which they soon found out, was they brought in an astronomer and an astrologer in. They carbon dated the wall. The wall came out to about 40,000 years, plus or minus 5,000 years. Okay? Now, carbon dating is actually accurate up to 50,000 years. Anything past that, it's not. But what they did was they saw this, and so they carbon dated the wall, came out 40,000 years. They had a computer, okay, because we have the technology to do that. So what they did was they rewound the sky back 40,000 years to see what it would look like. And lo and behold, when they printed out what the star patterns were and they superimposed it over to the cave, all the constellations lined up. Okay? So we've, as a society, as a humanity, have understood the zodiac for 40,000 years. It is by far the oldest science. Okay? Now, there's questions in the Bible, the generic questions that everybody asks. How was Jesus able to heal the blind? How he walked on water? How he turned water into wine? Why he had 12 disciples? Why he was betrayed with a kiss by Judas? Why he was dead for 3 days? Why is his birthday on December 25th? All of that is astrology. And I'm going to explain that to you.
Okay.
Genesis 1:14 says, "Let lights appear in the sky to separate the day from the night. Let them be signs to mark the seasons, days, and years." And that's basically what the zodiac is. Now, what I'm going to do is, in order for you to understand how I read the Bible, I have to explain to you the 12 signs of the Bible, of the zodiac. Okay? So there's key words in each sign that make sense based on what the sign is. Okay? So I'm going to go over that with you real quick.
Okay.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So Aquarius is the first sign that I talk about. The first sign in the zodiac is actually Aries. I talk about Aquarius first because it's kind of like January. It's our new year. Okay? The first sign is represented by the man with the water pitcher. So whenever you hear words in the Bible like Son of Man, man, baptism, because if you look at the picture on the right, this is literally how you baptize a child. Water pitcher, fountain, stream, river, pond, lake, creek, bodies of water, they're talking about Aquarius. And the same thing for Pisces, Pisces being the two fish in the water. Okay, so the first two signs that I talk about, you have to differentiate in the zodiac whether or not something is a Pisces or an Aquarius based on the water. And there's keys to do that. I'll show you that. Aries is the ram. And in Aries, you have March 21st, which is the spring equinox. It's a 12-hour day and a 12-hour night. It's also the Passover, or the passing over of the sun over the equator and back on its way to its height in the summer solstice. So the Passover is that in astrology. In Judaism, the Passover is the angel of death passes over all the households that don't have the ram or the lamb. Aries, the ram. They don't have the ram's blood on the door, the lamb's blood on the door. The firstborn son gets killed. In Christianity, the Passover is changed and it becomes the resurrection of God's son. See, this is all pagan, okay? This all goes back to that. But basically, the main purpose that I want you to take out of this is the play on words between son, S-O-N, and S-U-N.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
one letter difference, but you change that letter, it's got a whole different meaning.
Right. So the idea is that Jesus is the Son of God, S-U-N. not the SON, and I'm going to make the case for that today. He's a solar deity. No different than Horus was, no different than many of the ancient ones before him. So whenever you hear, because Aries is the ram, whenever you hear ram, lamb, shepherd, ram's horn, sheep, you're talking about Aries.
Okay.
Then Taurus is the bull. Now, when you look at the sky and you see Taurus during the season where it's supposed to be, you know you need to put the plow on the bull so that you can plant the seed so you can harvest in Virgo and Libra. It was simple. The ancients looked up to the sky, they'd see the bull, and they'd know that you have to put the plow on the bull because it's time to plant.
Right.
So whenever you hear bull, ox, calf, or cow, cow being the female bull, you're talking about Taurus. Gemini is the twins. It's the story of Castor and Pollux Troy, whose sister was Helen of Troy. It's the story of Achilles. So whenever you hear twins or brothers, you're talking about Gemini. Then Cancer is the crab, and it's the sideways moving creature. So what the sun does is, starting on December 25th, it rises a degree on its axis. The next day, it rises another degree, another degree, another degree. It keeps rising an additional degree. The days get longer, the nights get shorter. On June 21st, it stops because that's the summer solstice. That's its height. That's the longest day of the year. Then for 3 days, it walks to the side. It stays at that height, just like the crab does. So it walks sideways for 3 days. Then on June 25th, it drops a degree. And then it continues to drop a degree every single day, okay, until it hits December 21st. And then that's the winter solstice. And then it walks sideways for 3 days, and it comes back to life December 25th. The sun follows this pattern every single year. It always has. So whenever you hear crab or beetle, the crab in the Egyptian time was known as the scarab, you're talking about Cancer.
Okay.
And Leo is the lion. He's the king. He's the king of the jungle. The ruling planet of Leo is actually the sun. So when they're talking about the kingdom of heaven on earth, they're literally talking about the sun being in its ruling planet. I promise you this will all start to make sense as I start putting it together. But basically, whenever you hear lion, lioness, or cub, you think of Leo. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Virgo is the woman holding the wheat stalk. So remember before when we said that you planted Taurus? Well, you plant in Taurus, and the virgins would cultivate the wheat in Virgo in order to make the bread for the year. So whenever you hear virgin, wheat, grain, seed, barley, corn, grainy things that you cultivate, you're talking about Virgo.
Okay.
Then Libra is the justice. It's the scales. It's the balance. It's the just one. The reason it's the justice is because it judges God's sun as it passes over the fall equinox and begins its descent into winter, into cold, into death. Libra is also wine season, which is when you plant the grapes in Taurus, you press the wine in Libra. Ask any Italian. You make wine in September.
Okay.
It's also olive oil season. You collect the olives and you press them in Libra. So whenever you hear law, judge, justice, the just one, divorce, marriage, court, wine, vineyard, wine press, olive oil, you're talking about Libra. Then Scorpio is the scorpion, and he is known as the betrayer, because when a scorpion bites you, it leaves an imprint in your skin that looks like a pair of lips. And it's why the mafia has the kiss of death. And it's why Jesus was betrayed by Judas with a kiss. So the sun is judged in Libra, and it's betrayed in Scorpio, finally in Sagittarius. This is where the man with the bow and the arrow on the horse shoot the sun and inflict further punishment on the sun, effectively killing it. Why? Because on December 21st, as I've mentioned, the sun is at its lowest point. It cannot rise any lower. It was considered dead. It would rise in the morning on December 21st, and it wouldn't even clear the horizon. So the ancients used to say that it was dead.
Right.
Then what it does is it remains at that lowest level for 3 days, like the crab. It walks sideways for 3 days. So that's why God's sun was dead. And then that's why God's sun was dead for 3 days. Then on December 25th, or the birth of God's son, it rises up again, and it comes back to life. The sun is born again.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever you hear horse, bow and arrow, spear, horseman, you're talking about Sagittarius. Finally is Capricorn, who's the goat because he likes to climb the mountain. And if you look at the zodiac wheel, Capricorn's at the bottom. Capricorn starts the climb. If you put a sun on the wheel, rising at a degree a day alongside the wheel, it starts to climb in Capricorn. So it climbs the mountain, just like the goat climbs the mountain. So those are my, those are the 12, well, they're not mine, but those are the 12 signs. I've given key words. I'm going to keep reinforcing them to you. Do you have any general questions about them before I get started?
I don't see any questions in the comments, but as for myself, I am quite familiar with this ideology, and I've noticed that that synchronicity as well in myself. We do have, I don't know, Dave Percella, you're in the audience. You are an astrologer. I don't know if you have any feedback on that, but if you want to throw some comments in, we'll throw them in. But other than that, I'm good to go. We do. I don't know if it's possible, since you're manning it, if you could go full screen for the slideshow, so the guests could see it a little, your slides a little bit clearer. I do have a comment about that, if that's possible.
It's not letting me.
Okay. No worries. I'm just I am asking on behalf of the asker. All right, our resident astrologer says looks good. Perfect.
Okay.
This
Resident
is his
astrologer,
expertise, not my. Yeah, well, it's just for our team, but this is not my forte, so I'm listening. I'm absorbing.
Right. Okay. So no big deal. Now, there are names given in church for Jesus. Jesus is given nicknames in church. The Lamb of God, the Lion of Judah, things of that nature. They're all astrology based. And I'm going to go through it. Now remember, Jesus is the sun, S-U-N, in this mythology. So when the sun is in Capricorn, the sign of the goat, he's called the scapegoat of Israel. When the sun is in Aquarius, he's called the son of man. When the sun is in Pisces, he's called the fisherman of men. Pisces, the two fish. It's also why he feeds the masses with two fish. He's the Lamb of God, or the Ram in Aries. He's the Lion of Judah, also known as Leo. The lady holding the stalk of wheat, Virgo. He's born of a virgin, and he's called the bread of life. Libra is the scale of justice. He's known as the just one. He's betrayed in Scorpio. He dies in Sagittarius on December 21st. It's also why he's worshipped on the sun day. Okay? Now I'm going to draw your attention to the picture on the left, which I found on the internet, which you can too. You're going to see the sun behind his head, the two fingers up like this. You're going to see the heart outside the body and the crown of thorns. Okay? Sun is always behind Jesus because he represents the sun. Any picture of Jesus, the sun is behind his head. Sometimes there's a Knights Templar cross in the sun, but more than likely it's just usually the sun, even in baby pictures. Now, the two fingers up like this is an ancient Kemetic peace sign. This is the original peace sign because the fingers are together. This is this John Lennon peace sign. This is actually the British V for victory war sign. The fingers are separate. So this is actually a war sign. This is the original peace sign. So whenever you see him or Baphomet or any of these, Satan or any of them like this, they're telling you they're coming peacefully. Now, the white Jesus picture, the face of him, is actually a guy named Caesar Borgia, who was the bastard son of Pope Alexander VI. Before then, there was no picture of him, and it was decided his picture would be the face of. Okay, that's where we get his face from him. Okay, because this happened in the 1500s. Now, about 80 years before Pope Alexander was Pope. Okay, he comes from the Borgia family, which is one of the 13 Illuminati families. About 80 years or so, the printing press came out. So they were able to mass produce this face of him, this picture of him. And Caesar Borgia was horrible. He killed his brother. He slept with his sister. He was horrible. And he was the bastard son of the Pope because popes used to have kids. They just never got married. That's why they were all bastards. Now, the crown of thorns wraps around the heart on the outside, and the heart is always on the outside, represents the rays of the sun. The heart outside the body represents the toroidal field or the torus field. Looks like this if you've ever seen one. It's the electromagnetic field of the heart. It looks like an apple with you being the core. It goes out 6 feet, circumventing your body. Okay, that's why the elites try and keep you more than 6 feet apart during the pandemic, so you can't interact with anyone.
That makes sense. Interesting. I never thought of it that way, but that I can't deny that idea.
Yeah. I mean, there's no other idea why it would be 6 feet. That's such an arbitrary number, but it is if you know the electromagnetic field. Some people call it an aura. There's words. When you're combining with someone, it's like this. Okay, this is what it looks like when you're interacting with someone. Now, the guy on the left here is Jesus. The guy on the right is an early depiction of Caesar Borgia. You can see where he gets his facial similarities from. Okay, That's the guy. Now we'll start decoding some phrases, okay, and how the Bible was encoded. If I were to say to you, pride comes before the fall, you've heard that before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain that to your listeners?
I could interpret it, what it probably comes before the fall. So, like the fall of what though? I really don't know the context of what it was meant, but I hear it being used out of context, so I don't think I could explain it properly. So I feel like you're
So
going to tell me the
basically,
right way.
if you're too boastful or too prideful, then you're going to fall.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. But do you know what a group of lions is called?
A pride.
Exactly. A group of lions is called a pride. Pride is the lion. Lion is Leo. Leo is in July and August.
So the Leo before the fall. So there's a place in time calendar. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Remember, this is all about a calendar. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, in the book of Micah, he predicts that the Savior will come from a town called Bethlehem. Okay. Now, each zodiac sign is called a house, an eon, an age, a mansion. There's many different words for it. Okay. But you, Bethlehem Ephrathah, though you are small among the clans of Judah, out of you will come for me one who will be ruler over Israel, whose origins are from ancient times. However, Bethlehem in Hebrew is a combination of two words. It's bet, which means house, and lechem, which means bread. So the house of bread. I just got finished telling you that the house of bread was Virgo, the lady with the wheat stalk. And this is the virgin with the wheat stalk. So what he's really saying is the Savior will come from Bethlehem. He's saying the Savior will come from a virgin, Virgo.
Yeah.
Okay, this is why all the ancient gods were born of virgins. Is because
and then the house of bread. So I guess like the zodiac house, they call them houses as well.
Right.
Okay. I'm tracking. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. All right. Now I'm going to read you Deuteronomy 32, and I've highlighted all the key words. You're going to see all the signs here, and we're going to go over it. Deuteronomy 32. He gave them honey from the cliffs and olive oil. Well, olives are Libra. Right? That's when you press them from the rocky ground. He gave people butter from the herd and milk from the flock. He gave them lambs, which are Aries, and goats, which is Capricorn. They had the best rams, that's Aries, from Bashan, and the finest wheat, that's Virgo, the lady with the wheat stalk. They drank the best wine made from the juice from red grapes. Wine is Libra again. But Jeshurun became fat and kicked like a bull. That's Taurus, the bull. So there's 8 signs in this one passage right here.
Okay.
There's 2 that I haven't really gotten into with you yet, though. He gave them honey from the cliffs. In the sign Cancer, there's a group of stars called the Beehive Cluster. It's known as an asterism. It's a small knit group of stars. Okay, so that's where the honey comes from, the Beehive Cluster. It's a metaphor. Okay. Then he gave people milk from the flock. The milk would come from the Milky Way galaxy. The center of the Milky Way galaxy is in Sagittarius. So your land from Cancer to Sagittarius is your land of the milk and the honey. Okay, it's in the heavens. This is star poetry they're talking about. Okay, it's not a place on Earth. Now, I'm going to show you how to start to decode within the Bible with the zodiac wheel. The Mount of Olives. Jesus led his disciples to the Mount of Olives after his last Passover, so he could teach them a few more things, pray, then wait for Judas to betray him. While walking to the Mount of Olives, he gave the parable of the true vine. So Passover takes place in Aries, which if you look at the zodiac wheels on the left, where right after that he walks to the Mount of Olives. So you're going to walk from Aries to Libra for the olives. Those are opposing signs. You're going to find lots of connecting signs and opposing signs. Okay, that's how you know these patterns were directly put in there on purpose. So you go from Aries and Passover to Libra, the Mount of Olives. Then they're waiting for the betrayal. Well, I told you the betrayal was Scorpio, the betrayer, which is the next sign over from Libra. So you go across and then over. Okay, it's following a pattern. Okay, now while he was in Libra, okay, because he's waiting for the betrayal, so he's not in Scorpio, he's still in Libra. He gave the parable of the true vine, or vineyard, or wine press, whatever you want to call it. It's still Libra. Okay, so you see how this works?
So, well, I'm listening. So you caught me here. So Passover, you gotta catch me up here. So like I'm completely blown here. So I'm trying to pay attention. All right.
So what was your question?
No, I don't have a question. You asked me if I was paying attention. I was just
No, I didn't say you're paying attention. I said, do you have any questions?
Oh, do I have any questions? Okay, no. Obviously, I'm just right into it. I'm good.
Okay, so let's go into the book of Revelation. Let's jump around the Bible. The first living creature was like a lion. The second was like an ox. The third had a face like a man. The fourth was like a flying eagle. Okay?
Mhm.
The first living creature was like a lion. That's Leo. The second was like an ox. That's Taurus. The third had a face like a man. That's Aquarius. The fourth was like a flying eagle. In astrology, the Scorpio is the belly-crawling creature. It's the lowest form of life on Earth. Its evolved form is the eagle. And the eagle's evolved form becomes the phoenix. So the eagle becomes the Scorpio, okay? And you can look up this astrological thing if you want. I don't usually go too deep into it, but the scorpion crawls on its belly. It's the lowest form of life on Earth. The eagle is the highest flying form of life on Earth, so it evolves into that. Now, Leo, Taurus, Aquarius, and Scorpio are the 4 fixed signs of the zodiac. They're called fixed signs because they're fixed in their season. The animals that they had just mentioned, including the man. Leo is in the middle of summer. Taurus, spring. Aquarius, winter. Scorpio, or the eagle, fall. Now, if you look at the zodiac wheel, the lion, Leo, man, Aquarius, those are opposing signs. The ox, Taurus, the eagle, Scorpio, those are opposing signs. It makes an X like this through the zodiac wheel. It's a perfect celestial alignment of the 4 fixed signs.
Okay.
Let's go another one. Revelation 12. A great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant and cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous red dragon with 7 heads, 10 horns, and 7 crowns on its heads. Its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to earth. A woman clothed with the sun is the sun clothed in Virgo. So Virgo being the woman. It's just a metaphor for the sun being in Virgo. If the sun's in Virgo, the moon will be at her feet. So the zodiac is 12 signs. There's a 24-hour day clock, so the sun spends 2 hours a day in each sign. If the sun is in Virgo, which is between 4 and 6 p.m. every day, the moon will be down because the sun is still up. The moon will be at her feet. If the moon is up, the sun is at her feet. So it's just another metaphor. Another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous dragon. Its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to earth. So the constellation Draco is the dragon. Its tail goes from Aries to Sagittarius, which is 4/12 of the signs or 1/3 of the stars out of the sky. These are just celestial metaphors, as I'm showing you over and over again. They're not meant to be taken literally. These are just metaphors. Are you starting to see that?
Yeah, no, I do see the connection. My brain's going elsewhere because I'm thinking of other things and I'm connecting to it too, and I don't want to jump the gun. So you're leading me down a rabbit hole that I'm finding very fascinating.
Matthew 10:16. Behold, I send you forth as sheep amidst the wolves. The sheep is Aries. The wolf is the constellation Lupus, who borders the Libra line. Libra and Aries are opposing signs. This is another pattern, opposing signs, connecting signs. So I've given examples of astrotheology in the Old Testament as well as the New Testament. I've been accused of cherry-picking verses from the Bible to prove a point. Let's take a much longer passage and see if we could decode it as well. So this, excuse me a sec. I'm sorry. Excuse me a sec.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay. All right. So this is the part where we talk about Job. You remember Job?
I do. I'm not really. Don't quiz me on the Bible. I don't know much.
I'm not going to quiz you, but he was basically.
Yeah, I'm aware.
He was a righteous man who was given everything. He had land, family, money, animals. Satan goes up to God and says he's only faithful to you because he has everything. So God and Satan make a bet. God tells Satan, you can take away whatever you want from him. You just can't take his life. Little by little, his family starts to die. His animals start to run away and die. His land dries up. At one point, he's just sitting on a rock. He's still faithful to God, but he cries out to God. God actually replies to him. What I'm going to read you is God's response. Now, the first sentence is what God says in the Bible. The second sentence is what it means.
Okay.
So Job 38:32, he says, can you lead forth the Mazzaroth? The Mazzaroth is literally the zodiac. Okay, the Mazzaroth over time becomes Mazalot, which survives in Judaism today as Mazel Tov, which means good fortune from the stars. So what is the Lord's challenge to Job? He says, can you bind the chains of the Pleiades? Can you loosen Orion's belt? Those are obvious star metaphors.
Mm-hmm.
Can you bring forth the constellation in their seasons or lead out the bear with its cubs? The constellations are the zodiac above. The bear and its cubs are Ursa Major, the Great Bear, and Ursa Minor, part of the Big Dipper.
Yeah.
Who can tip over the water jars of heavens? Well, that's the man
Aquarius.
tipping over the water jar. That's Aquarius. Do you hunt the prey for the lioness and satisfy the hunger for the lions? That's Leo. Who provides food from the raven? For the raven. The constellation Corvus, which means raven and borders on Virgo. Do you watch where the doe bears her fawn? Mariga, meaning deer, is located in Orion. Who let the wild donkey go free? That's Acellus borealis, which means donkey, and is located in Cancer. Will the wild ox consent to serve you? That's Taurus. The wings of the ostrich flap joyfully. That's Lambda Achille or Al-Thaliman, which means two ostriches in Arabic. Do you give the horse its strength? It laughs at fear, afraid of nothing. It does not shy away from the sword. The quiver rattles against its side along with the flashing spear and lance. That's Sagittarius with the bow and the arrow. Does the eagle soar at your command and build its nest on high? That's Aquila, which is the Latin name for eagle and is a constellation a few degrees above the celestial equator. Finally, he says, can you pull in Leviathan with a fish hook? Leviathan, if you know anything, was the fish god. So that's Pisces, the fish. So again, this is all star metaphors. These are all star poetry, you know, as everything is.
I have a question from a member. If you want to take a question. So Serena Dracis says, how do the original texts translate into English analogs? Were they Pleiades or Orion in the original Aramaic?
They were. In fact, it goes back to Sumerian even. Yeah, these are translated faithfully. The words are translated faithfully.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
The original text translated, yeah.
All right. You want to keep sharing your screen? Your screen kind of went blank. Did you do that?
Yeah. Hold on a sec.
That's all right.
Is that better?
Yep, there you go.
The book of Psalms, Psalm 104. He sends forth springs in their valleys. The wild donkeys quench their thirst. He causes the grass to grow for the cattle, and wine which makes man's heart glad, so that he may make his face glisten with oil. The high mountains are for the wild goats. He made the moon for the seasons. The sun knows the place of its setting. The young lions roar after their prey. Just going in order of the psalm. The springs are Aquarius. The water, Aquarius, the water. The wild donkeys are Acellus borealis, which is in Cancer. I told you that. The cattle is Taurus, the bull. The wine is Libra. The oil is Libra. The wild goats are Capricorn. The moon for the seasons, and the sun knows its place in the setting, is openly talking about the sun and the moon. The lions roar after their prey are Leo. Psalm 147. He gives to the beast its food, and to the young ravens which cry. He does not delight in the strength of the horse. He does not take pleasure in the legs of a man. He makes peace in your borders. He satisfies you with the finest of the wheat. He gives snow like wool. Well, the ravens are the constellation Corvus. The horse is Sagittarius. The man is Aquarius. The wheat is Virgo, the lady with the wheat stalk, and the wool comes from sheep or Aries. You see how this all works together when you understand the key words?
Yeah, I'm starting to question, like, I got to go back and read everything too and look at it from a different perspective. It makes you kind of wonder, you know, like that different perspective too. I'm curious to know, like, I'm seeing that these are being described in a sequence. I don't know the zodiac off by heart enough to know if this is following in sequence to the houses as well, or are they all over the place? Like as it's progressing,
so a lot of the times they'll be talking about neighboring signs and cross signs, like I showed you in the Mount of Olives passage.
Yeah. Okay. So there's commonalities in that too. You'll be able to pick that out because you know they might have to.
Right. But sometimes they'll go every other sign.
Okay.
Sometimes they'll go back and forth. Sometimes they'll talk about like in Revelation 4:7, where they'll talk about the 4 fixed signs. It's not always across and next to it. You have to really understand the patterns and find the patterns and why it was done.
Yeah.
This way.
So like are the patterns the same is what I'm saying though? Once you're able to establish the code,
they're all different.
They're all different? Okay.
They're all different. The horse is Sagittarius, the man are Aquarius. Those are 2 signs apart. The wheat is Virgo, and the wolf and the sheep are Aries. That's 5 signs apart. So there's no pattern there.
Okay.
But nonetheless, you can't deny that in the 4 passages, there's 4 constellations.
Mm-hmm. That all comes down to knowledge and how do you know that and blah, blah, blah. And then you mentioned
Which
Sumerian.
takes a while, believe me.
Yeah, you're Sumerian, and then you go back. Yeah, so it's interesting.
These are answers to the beginning. How Jesus was able to heal the blind. Okay? Remember the story about how the blind man comes up to him and he touches him on the eyes?
Mm-hmm.
He touches him on the eyes, and then suddenly the man can see. But the sun does the same thing. Like right now, it's dark outside. I have no sight. I'm blind.
Mm-hmm.
But when the sun comes up in the morning and touches my eyes, I'm given the gift of sight again. How he walked on water.
Uh-huh.
How he walked on water. Jesus supposedly walked on water, but the sun does that too. All you got to do is look at a sunset over a lake.
And then
That's all you got to do.
Oh, I see where you're going. Yeah.
How he
and then dead for 3 days, it just doesn't move, right? Yeah.
How he turned water into wine. So the reason God is considered a man and Mother Earth is considered a woman has to do with one thing only. It has to do with God's sacred fluid, the rain. Okay? In Hebrew, the word for rain is shemen. We get the word semen from it. It's the sacred fluid. So what happens is God's sacred fluid comes down onto Mother Earth and then impregnates her, and from her belly, food, vegetations, trees, plants, things grow. Mm-hmm. Okay? So what happens is you have Taurus now, right? April showers bring May flowers when you put the plow on the bull and you plant. Mm-hmm. Okay? So that's what you do. And then it rains and it rains and it rains. And then in September, you pull the grapes and you smash them turn them into wine. That's how you turn God's water originally and the seed into wine.
Interesting.
It's a process.
So it's a process that's not done instantaneously like a parlor trick at a.
It's not a parlor trick.
Table.
Nobody ever turned water into wine. This is a process.
I understand that. Yeah,
this all has to do with the Farmer's Almanac, basically. Why he had 12 disciples. We went over that. Remember, Judas represents Scorpio because he's the betrayer.
So the 12 zodiacs, yeah. Or signs of the zodiac.
Why he was betrayed with a kiss by Judas. We went over that. Why he was dead for 3 days. We went over that.
So that's just the cycle as the sun is moving through.
This is So Jesus is an astrotheological allegory for the sun. He's a sun god, and every story in the Bible, okay, in the Old Testament and the New Testament leading up to Jesus, okay, is literally just different ways of telling the same story. I'm going to keep going and show you more. Okay.
Yeah, no worries.
Let's do the book of Matthew. Let's do the whole book of Matthew. So you guys are still probably going, oh, he's just cherry picking verses. I'm confused, but I don't think this is right. Let me show you. I put the zodiac on the left, and the red rings that I have in there are so you could follow along. Okay. Matthew 3:2, repent of your sins and turn to God, for the kingdom of heaven is near. Now, each gospel begins at one of the 4 major points of the zodiac and ends at one of them as well. The 2 solstices and the 2 equinoxes, when connected, form a cross. This is known as the cross of God's sun. The kingdom of heaven is Leo, whose ruling planet is the sun. This is the only sign that the sun rules over. Okay? Here, this is the firmament between Cancer and Leo. You see the dividing lines? They're not really dividing lines in the heaven, but those are what's known as the firmament. It keeps one sign from spilling over into another. In the Bible, it says they will not transgress one another. So it's never going to go from Capricorn to Gemini to Leo. It's going to go Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Taurus. Always. It will always do that. Now, the next passage, Matthew 3:4. John's clothes were woven from coarse camel hair, and he wore a leather belt around his waist. For food, he ate locusts and wild honey. Well, why is he wearing camel hair clothing in the desert? And why is he eating locusts? Okay, I'm going to superimpose the Vitruvian Man onto the zodiac, and we can make sense of that. To be honest, it didn't have to be the Vitruvian Man. I just picked it because it was elegant. I could have really just picked anything.
Okay.
Any picture of a man. So I could show you how this works. Cancer being the head is why he eats the wild honey. Get it? Because the head is in Cancer, the mouth is in Cancer, the beehive cluster is in Cancer, so he's eating the honey. Now, Leviticus 11, what's clean and unclean to eat? All flying insects that walk on all fours are to be regarded as unclean by you. There are, however, some flying insects that walk on all fours that you may eat. Of those that have jointed legs for hopping on the ground. Of these, you may eat any kind of locust. There it is, locust.
Okay.
Katydid, cricket, or grasshopper. So we answered the two weird parts. But now, what about the belt and the camel hair? A little lower down on the body is the clothes made out of camel hair. This is where his arms and chest would be. You see, in Gemini. The head was in Cancer, the arms and the chest would be in Gemini, so that's where you wear the clothes. Camel hair. There's a constellation called Camelopardalis, which is in Gemini. That's where the camel comes from. So right now you have the head and the upper body so far. A little lower is Taurus, which is the midsection, okay, which is where he would wear the belt. Now, Taurus represents the bull, and the female is the cow. The cow is where you get the leather. Now, regarding the belt, Orion's belt sits between Taurus and Gemini. So next would be the baptism. Now, how are we going from the beginning of Leo, okay, to a water sign to signify the baptism? You would go across the zodiac. Cross signs, as they are known, are the signs of opposite location. For example, Aries and Libra are cross signs. This is very important. The sign's two most important signs in astrology are its neighboring sign and its cross sign. This is encoded in the book as well. So we're in Leo, right? We're at the firmament of Leo and Cancer. The cross sign is the firmament of Capricorn and Aquarius. It borders Aquarius, Aquarius being the water. That's why the baptism is there. You have the man with the water pitcher in Aquarius, which is personified as John the Baptist in the story. It's important to know, too, that John the Baptist and Jesus are exactly 6 months apart. When you think about the fact that Jesus is born on December 25th, I'm not going to argue with anybody about whether he was born on September 11th, 3 AD, or whenever people think he was born, okay? This is the science behind the fable, the story of the Bible, okay? So he's born on December 25th, and he dies on December 21st, which is the winter solstice. He's betrayed in Scorpio, okay? In the story, he dies after the last Passover, or the Last Supper, which was a Passover dinner. So that's Aries. But that's the story. This is the astrology behind the story. And this is what makes up the story. Okay? When you think about the fact that Jesus is born on December 25th and rises a degree a day, then that must mean that John the Baptist is born on June 24th and decreases a degree a day. This is why in John 3:30, John says, he must increase, but I must decrease. Well, how do you know that? Because the Catholic Church set St. John's Day for June 24th. You can look it up. That's exactly 6 months to the day of the birthday of Jesus. So basically, if John is right there, okay, one increases while the other decreases if they're 6 months apart. Do you see how that works?
Kind of.
Imagine the sun being on this wheel. It's climbing to the top. When it hits Cancer, it starts climbing down a degree a day, like the sun does.
Right.
Okay, so now if they're 6 months apart, they're literally opposing signs.
Right.
So one goes up, the other has to go down.
Okay.
That's why John says he must increase, but I must decrease. Okay. Now the next story is the temptation of Jesus. So we're going back to the Cancer Leo firmament of July 24th. This is simple. The devil tempts him for 40 days. So you just count 40 days. It's a calendar. July 24th takes you to September 2nd. That's right in the middle of Virgo. The lady with the wheat stalk, the bread, everything. What is the very next passage in the Bible? Matthew 4:3. If you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become loaves of bread. Here we see the mention of the bread, which tells you that the sun is now in Virgo. The next passage, Matthew 15:17 and 22. I did not come to abolish the law, and if you are even angry with someone, you are subject to judgment. The law and the judgment is Libra, the scales, right? So you go from Virgo to Libra. Those are connecting signs, okay? Matthew 7:9-10. If your children ask for a loaf of bread, you give them a stone instead. Once again, it goes back to Virgo. Matthew 7:15-16. Beware of false prophets who comes disguised as harmless sheep. And can you pick grapes from the thorn bushes? The sheep are the rams in Aries, and the grapes are in Libra. Those are opposing signs. Moving along, Matthew 13. Later that same day, Jesus left the house and sat beside the lake. The story now moves from Libra to the barrier between Aquarius and Pisces, as he's right beside the lake or the two water signs. Its cross sign, Aquarius and Pisces. Okay, its cross sign is the Leo Virgo firmament. As it's across from Virgo, the wheat stalk, the grains. Isn't it ironic that Jesus' next parables are the wheat and the weeds, the mustard seed, and the yeast, all having to do with Virgo, the lady with the wheat stalk? So moving right along, next is the fishing net parable. So we were just in Leo and Virgo. So now we go back across to Aquarius and Pisces. Why? Because the fishing net parable. The fish are in Pisces, the two fish. Do you see how this works? I know that you're not catching it all because this is new to you, but do you see how this is literally just following the zodiac?
Yeah, I'm starting to see. I'm understanding how the words translate through the zodiac, and how what's being described is, like, as you say, star stories. Is that what you said? What was the word you used? Star stories or something. I like that.
Well, what do you think so far?
Well, I think it's fascinating. I think it's an interesting perspective on the Bible. For me, I do various studies on interpretation of what Bible passages mean, and I can understand that whole defense when it says, you just cherry picked it and things like that. Without giving away the segment at the end, will kind of make sense that we're on the same page in that respect. And this is, for me, believe it or not, and I'm actually surprised that this is a perspective that I never once considered, and it's making sense to me. So I'm intently listening.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Because you're a private investigator. You deal.
Yeah, so investigation for me makes sense in the puzzles and the pieces and the association. I also understand the people and interpretation. So the questions that I have, I'm not asking questions because I don't want to interrupt you, and I feel like you're going to answer my questions by the end. But I'm starting to question, how did we misinterpret this when you've just explained it so clearly that it makes sense now? Why introduce the man? So I'm just trying to get. I don't want to segue into a conspiracy yet, but maybe.
No, don't worry. I'm going to get into that.
Maybe. Yeah, okay. Perfect. So yeah,
I will. We have to take a break in a few, though, don't we?
Well, we don't have to unless you want to.
I need to use the bathroom, so if we could.
Okay, if you want, well, let's. You want to take it right now?
Yeah, let's take it right. Well, actually, no. Let me finish Matthew, and then we'll take it. I just need another 2-3 minutes.
Okay.
Gemini is the sign of the two men, technically twins. However, there's just a short mention of brothers in the next passage. He's just the carpenter's son, and we know Mary, his mother, and his brothers, James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas. That's Gemini.
Okay.
Look at what Gemini also is. It's the firmament between Gemini and Cancer. Okay. If you follow that across the zodiac, that takes you to Sagittarius, Capricorn border. Do you know what day that is?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Sagittarius is the border is the last day of Sagittarius. That's December 21st. That's the day of death, remember?
So the solstice. Yeah. Okay.
Remember that? Well, what's the very next thing that happens? It's the death of John the Baptist. So it's right on time. As I mentioned before, the death comes at the end of Sagittarius. Right. The firmament of Sagittarius, Capricorn, and Gemini, Cancer are opposing signs. So I added this just for a little flair, but let's take a sentence which sounds like it could be in the Bible but isn't. So I can illustrate for people who aren't on board 100% yet how this basically works. If I said the rulers were divided between war and love and split the land in half, you could view that as a biblical translation. You could view that as a literal translation. However, the ruling planet of Aries is Mars, who is the god of war. The ruling planet of Libra is Venus, who is the goddess of love. There is your war and love. And if you connect it in the middle, like you see, I split the zodiac or the land in half. These are the metaphors. This is how it works. They're deeply encoded metaphors, and all you need is a simple codex, a simple key to decode it. Notice, I'm not using apologetics or any type of interpretation other than the 12 signs and the constellations they knew about at the time. Notice that. I'm literally only using that to decode this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Matthew 14, 17, and 32. But we only have 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. The bread and the fish are opposing signs. That's Virgo, the bread, and Pisces, the fish. Pisces, Jesus feeds the masses with 2 fish. So the 2 fish are Pisces. Why is it 5 loaves of bread, though? Well, the year starts in Aries. If you count 5 signs from Aries, you get Virgo. Okay, so that's why. Then this is the cross of God's sun. When you combine the solstices and the equinoxes, this is what it gets, okay? This is what it looks like. It's the cross.
Mm-hmm.
We were just in Virgo. Now next is Libra, which is law and wine, remember? What do we get now from Jesus? The story of the temple tax, the unforgiving debtor, divorce and marriage, and the parable of the vineyard worker. There's your law, and there's your wine, okay? Next is Scorpio, the betrayer. This is where Judas betrays Jesus with the kiss. So we were just in Virgo, then Libra, then Scorpio, and next comes Sagittarius, which is the day of death, right? This is where Jesus is crucified on the cross. He remains dead for 3 days, like the sun does, then rises on December 25th, the resurrection. So I think we could take a quick pause right now, if that's okay.
Yeah, we can actually do that. So I'll read my little blurb here, and then we'll head back. So it's a 5-minute break. So if you're listening to the, so we'll pause right here, and we'll continue after a message from our sponsors. And if you are listening to this audio only version, head over to youtube.com/the Experiencer Support Association, and you will see the video that goes with this audio. Remember, you are listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, a podcast by the Experiencer Support Association, and we will be right back.
It's your business. It's your property. Your assets are worth protecting. Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services specializes in patrolling and inspecting residential or commercial property against fire, theft, vandalism, terrorism, and illegal activity. People and buildings are monitored to prevent crime. Keep your property, your people, and your assets safe from threat. Our elite staff are dual licensed private investigators and security guards. Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services. Go to blacklightiss.com.
The same thing that draws aliens to our planet is the same thing that draws us to others. Exploration, curiosity, sustainability of life. That's why we go. It would make sense as to why they're visiting here.
Travis! Quit playing around, man. Get back here. Travis!
The last thing I remember was this numbing shock. Stunning sort of a feeling. Very powerful.
Get away from me!
I was just out of my mind with fear, just screaming the whole time.
It's been theorized that aliens prefer remote areas because they don't want to attract attention. Whatever it is that they're doing, they would want to do that in a less populated area. There are multiple accounts of the same thing from people from all over the world. People that do not know each other, do not live in the same cultures, and they're all looking up, they're all seeing things in the sky. So it would be naive of us to think that we're
Ryan is one of Canada's leading new UFO investigators. He conducts and oversees UFO investigations on a constant basis and was really taken by his research. He's compiled a tremendous amount of data regarding UFOs in Canada. And just as interesting, he really goes over how UFO investigations are done and what are some of the mistakes that people make when they submit evidence. Note for starters, don't edit your videos or photos before you send them. If you want to hear more follow-up conversation between Ryan and myself, you can go to richardolanmembers.com, where we have a candid conversation on ufology, the paranormal, and more. And remember, while we learn and grow and search for the truth, let's be good to each other.
Welcome to the Observation Deck, a state-of-the-art, one-of-a-kind virtual platform that takes video conferencing to the next level by using avatars to navigate a campus, just like you would in real life. First, you install the application and design your very own unique avatar. Then you're free to explore the various areas of the campus at any time from anywhere. There's so many areas and activities to choose from on the platform. There's a 1,000-seat auditorium, a large expo hall, a movie theater, a nightclub, an art gallery, and even